Hello everyone, I am back with another video in what I hope will become a series of videos over the next many weeks and months to come. So about 2 weeks ago, I uploaded a video kind of talking about what this project, what this series of videos is going to be about. I won't go into the finer details of all of that today. I will post a link to that video below in the description, so be sure to check it out if you want to know the finer details of everything. But the long and short of it is, there's a website called Backloggery. It's a site I've been a part of for over 10 years now, but it's a site that I haven't used in quite some time. And what it is basically a way to update, track your game collection. And so I thought, how fun would it be, at least for me, hopefully entertaining for others, to record a series of videos updating each system and the game collection that goes along with it for me. So really what these videos are meant to be are super chill, super relaxing, and hopefully, as you watch, maybe throw the video up, while you're playing a video game, while you're browsing the internet, you'll get some, game recommendations for some of the systems that I own. Or maybe you just get a better idea of the types of games that I love. If you've been a longtime follower of my channel, you'll know that there's going to be lots of licensed jank, lots of Disney games, and probably a 3D platformer or two in there. So I thought, what better way to kind of kickstart all of this video series, than talking about my Nintendo 3DS collection. With the news more recently about the eShops closing here in the near future, I thought, what a better way to, one, pull my game collection off the shelf and see what are some of the games that I might be missing, but also just remember such a special little handheld that came out, 10, 11 years ago at this point? Crazy stuff. So I don't want to waste any more time. I want to get right into it. Let's get into my Nintendo 3DS collection. All right, here we are. Here is my homepage on Backloggery.com. If you missed the last episode, be sure to check it out because I kind of walk through all the fun little things on this page. But the cool thing that you'll get to see on each of these series of videos is the games that I'm now playing. So, as you can see, enjoying some Demon Souls on PS5, doing some crazy leveling up here. Game is definitely punishing, but I'm here for it. Farming souls before the next stretch of progress. That's kind of where I'm at with that game. Playing some Tropical Freeze too on the Switch. So I don't know why I'm punishing myself so much with two really challenging games, but I guess that's just how things are going right now. So anyways, we're not going to go into all of these things. What we're going to go right into is the Nintendo 3DS collection. All of this is alphanumeric, so I have my entire collection of 3DS games to the left of me over here. They are, for the most part, in alphabetical order, but it's not really going to matter because Backloggery will do that for me. So, also, as I mentioned in the last episode, Backloggery is not pulling from a database, so all of these entries will be a manual effort, so we'll probably be here for a while, so get cozy, get a nice beverage. I'm drinking some piping hot coffee out of my Space Jam mug. Good stuff. And it's classic Space Jam. Get that new legacy garbage out of here, please. All right, LeBron, relax. All right, so I'm not going to go through each of these games just now. As we get to them alphabetically, we'll revisit some of my thoughts for each of these games, which should make for a good time. All right. Before we even get into the games, I do have each of my 3DS consoles here. So first up, we have that aqua blue teal launch Nintendo 3DS. Funny story with this. So for those that remember or might recall, the Nintendo 3DS launched at a whopping $250 here in the United States. And I don't think it sold to Nintendo's expectations in those first few months. So one of the wild things that happened is they ended up dropping the price to $169.99, $170 here in the US. And a lot of those early adopters were pretty frustrated. Understandably so. If they would have waited, 3 to 6 months or whatever the window was, they could have gotten their consoles for significantly less than what they paid for them. So what Nintendo ended up doing is giving out 20 free ambassador games for those early adopters. 10 were classic GBA games, 10 were classic NES games. I thought, I wondered if I can work my magic, because Nintendo announced it, the price drop that is, and it wasn't immediate. So what I did is I pulled up the announcement, printed it off, ran to my local Walmart, told them, hey, the price dropped. It wasn't in their system, but because of the announcement, they honored it for me. I got that 3DS, and I was also able to secure the Ambassador games. I'm sure a Nintendo representative is watching this video right now and is coming after me as we speak, but what are you going to do about it? All right. The next up, I ended up upgrading to an XL, this Mario and Luigi kind of special edition. This came with, not Partners in Time, I think it was Dream Team, or the one where you're going into Luigi's dreams or whatever. So that served me well for quite some time, up until very recently. And then when I was in college and I met my wife, I ended up getting her a 3DS as well. And I got her the new Nintendo 3DS XL, the cute little Pikachu edition. She loves it. She's played that quite a bit. And then more recently, with the announcement of the eShops closing, I figured the 3DS market was going to be getting more out of hand than it kind of already is for some of those first-party games. And I've had this new 3DS XL in particular on my radar for a while. And I thought, it's only going to go up in price, right? That's the state of the market right now. And I did get a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of fear of missing out on this one, even though it's been on my radar ever since it released, and that is the Galaxy 3DS. Purple's my favorite color. I love kind of the, as the name literally implies, the Galaxy theme to it. It's just, looks really nice, really glossy, has a nice finish, and yeah, glad I ended up buying it on this one. And I got a pretty good deal on eBay. The system, case, 3 games, so not too bad, not too bad. So that's a little introduction to my little 3DS system collection, how I first got the system shortly after launch, for cheaper than many others did when they got theirs day one. But in any case, what do you say we get into the actual Nintendo 3DS games? Let's do it. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, all of these games, for the most part, are in alphabetical order. So we're going to go through each. I'll showcase the game, talk a little bit about it, what it meant to me, why it's in my collection. And this first game was actually what I bought because I ended up selling my copy not too long after I bought it originally. But I bought this for my wife when I got her new 3DS XL. And that is Animal Crossing New Leaf. You can probably see it there. And this is the Nintendo Selects discounted version. So let's go ahead and add this game here. And as we do so, I'll do a little bit of kind of explaining of what Animal Crossing New Leaf meant to me. So I was never a Animal Crossing fan. Didn't get on the GameCube, didn't get on the original DS, and I didn't get on the Wii either. And so New Leaf, I got into the hype with all of the YouTube gaming community back then, and I made the same mistake that I more recently made with New Horizons on the Nintendo Switch. I pumped an absurd amount of hours the first couple of weeks I had it, and then I just burnt out and just completely fell off the Animal Crossing New Leaf train. And I kind of was just like, I don't, after a few months go by, you feel bad because all the weeds come up, all your neighbors probably hate you, and it's kind of just like, is it worth going back, righting the wrongs of all your Animal Crossing friends? For me, it wasn't. I kind of was just like, I don't need this game anymore, and I ended up getting rid of it. But my wife is a big fan of the farming sim type game genre. Animal Crossing was a must for her, so I got it for her. But New Leaf, I have not gone back after those first few months of playing on the 3DS. Just didn't really click with me, but what are you going to do? So now we're getting into the actual update here, so I have to scroll down, find Nintendo 3DS, and what I'm going to do, because I don't want it to seem like I added a bunch of games right now, the Backloggery longtime people will probably call me out on this, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to stealth add so no one knows that I added it to my game collection. And I'm probably going to null this one because I don't really want it to show up as a beaten or unbeaten game, just because it's tough to really beat Animal Crossing, right? I know credits can roll on the Switch when KK Slider comes in, but we're going to null this one, all right? Stealth add that. All right, next up, we've got Crosswords Plus. This is also one I recently bought for my wife for Christmas. Little stocking stuffer, if you will. Huge fan of crosswords and puzzles in general. She's definitely a big fan of puzzles. And I figured, you know, she recently got the New Yorker magazine ordered to our house. And I feel like those magazines show up like 3 times a week. And she got it specifically to do the crosswords. And I'm thinking, girl, there are video games that have just crosswords. Crosswords Plus on 3DS. So I think I got that on Amazon for like $10. Super cheap. And it looks like it was published by Nintendo too. Interesting. Yeah, Crosswords Plus. So let's go ahead and add that one here. And what I'll do too, just because I'm kind of super particular of the naming conventions of these, I make sure I get the specific, if there's a colon somewhere or an apostrophe somewhere that I might miss, I'll definitely make sure to go back and make sure they're correct, if you will. So after the recording, I'm not going to search each individual game up here, but Crosswords Plus, Nintendo 3DS, if you're into that kind of thing, be sure to snag it on Amazon. I'm sure they have piles of those in their warehouse. Why not? You know, perfect game to play, come down after a long day at work before you go to bed. Stealth add some Crossword Plus. Next, we get into 2 RPGs that I've not played. They start with D. Akira Toriyama did the artwork for this series. I'm sure you're already guessing what it might be. The first, of course, being Dragon Quest VII Fragments of the Forgotten Past. So this is in pretty pristine condition because I've never played it. I played just about every Dragon Quest game on the Nintendo DS, as we'll eventually get to down the line when we do the 3DS video, or the Nintendo DS video. What scares me most about Dragon Quest VII, like, we know JRPGs, they're gonna run you 40, 50, 60 plus hours, but this game is like 150 hours to beat. So I've not played it pretty much for the fear of how long it takes to beat, right? Because in 150 hours, you can beat a lot of games in 150 hours, let me tell you. So, and so you can already see Echoes of the Elusive Age, Dragon Quest IX, already something I've entered in here. So we'll say Dragon Quest VII, Fragments of the Forgotten Past. But something I really would love to hear for these videos, because there's a number of games on the 3DS that I've yet to play that are in my collection. You know, hardcore Dragon Quest fans, maybe you're just a casual Dragon Quest fan, you play a game here or there, and you've played Fragments of the Forgotten Past. How does it hold up among some of the other Dragon Quest games? Huge fan of 5, big fan of 4, and loved 9. 9 was terrific. Fragments of the Forgotten Past kind of freaks me out. So let me know what you think. We'll flag this one as unplayed, and we're not now playing that, but we are going to stealth add it to the collection. All right. Next up, the next chronological game in the series, and that is Dragon Quest VIII Journey of the Cursed King. Of course, originally on the PlayStation 2. This is also in pretty pristine condition because I also have not played this one. This is probably the Dragon Quest game that I want to play most next, because I've heard so many wonderful things. It got many people into the series because, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I mean, Dragon Quest VIII, I think, was really what sparked a lot of interest in the series here in the West, because obviously it's been huge in Japan, dating back to the Famicom days, but Dragon Quest VIII, when it came out on the PS2, was just a big deal. And I think a lot of people took a liking to the series. And I distinctly remember going into Best Buy way back when and seeing Dragon Quest VIII, and not only was it just the PS2 copy, but there was a little box with it as well. I don't know if it came with like a mini art book or something like that. And because I was so into Dragon Ball Z at the time and Dragon Ball and reading the manga, I was so interested in getting 8. But at that point, that was like just before I kind of started dipping my toe into the JRPG scene. So I never got the copy. But every time I went into Best Buy, I loved pulling that game off the shelf and just looking at the back art, reading all the different descriptions on the back, and just, of course, being obsessed with the art design because I was such a huge fan of Akira Toriyama's work with some of his manga stuff. So, Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King. Definitely let me know what everyone thinks about this one because, again, haven't played it, flag it as unplayed, little stealth ad. Next 2 games, actually, are games that I got for my wife for Christmas this year because she, like I said earlier, is a huge fan of farming sims. So I won't spend too terribly long on these 2 games here. But we have Ever Oasis, still literally in the shrink wrap, and it also, if you'll notice, has this little worldwide emblem on the case, which I think for many people might be a complete deal breaker. It's kind of like having one of those greatest hits copies on your shelf in a sea of black labels. It doesn't bother me, one, because as far as I've experienced, it's playable on my 3DS, and it was literally just meant to be a copy that was going to be sold in a country that otherwise wouldn't have gotten the game, and so an easy way for, I guess, distributors to manufacturing companies to distribute those copies that they were going to a specific country or region. That's why that emblem's there. But they're playable on my 3DS, and they're cheaper than getting copies without that emblem. So, given the market for 3DS games right now, why wouldn't you get a cheaper copy, even if it means you have a little thing on the box? The next game we have here is Hometown Story. As far as I know, this is kind of an offshoot of the Harvest Moon series. I don't want to say it's dumbed down, but I think it's even more simplistic than some of your Harvest Moon games that you could have otherwise gotten on the 3DS. Not really my thing. I've not really dipped my toes too much into the farming simulator scene. Love the original Sims on PC. I felt like Stardew Valley was going to really kind of scratch that itch for me. Love the music in Stardew Valley, but I just couldn't get into the gameplay loop. So Animal Crossing is about as far as I go with the farming simulator scene. And before I move on, I've got to add both Ever Oasis and Hometown Story. I'm sure it'll happen at least once when I do these videos. I get too caught up in the talking, and I forget to actually add the game. So Ever Oasis and Hometown Story. All right, both of them unplayed. I probably should flag these as null because I'm probably never going to play these. Ever Oasis maybe because it's less farming sim and more Animal Crossing in the sense that you're trying to build up this village. I think it probably has mechanics of stuff like Viva Pinata as well, but it's also very quest focused. So think your Legend of Zeldas on the 3DS. So something like that might be able to get me in, but we'll see. So Hometown Story will add nonetheless. All right, here we get to a game that I already have in the collection, already added, so we'll go back and revisit those thoughts here shortly. And that is Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance. I'm still in absolute awe of the artwork on this game. Absolutely beautiful. And in addition to that, we have the Mark of Mastery Edition. Is that what it's called? Yes, the Mark of Mastery Edition. Really nice collector's edition. This had some postcards, had a case for the original 3DS that I used to have on my teal aqua blue one for quite some time. some AR cards. It was a nice little 3DS collector's edition. Certainly worth the price of admission back then. But I'm sure everyone's curious. Rusty, what were your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3D? Let's go back and revisit those. Let's see what I had to say. All right. Dream Drop Distance, I flagged it 4 out of 5 stars. Wasn't all on board with this one like I was for the first 2 Kingdom Hearts games. Current progress, standard mode, beaten. Sora, Riku, 45 and 44 respectively. Around 23 hours. It took me to beat this one. All right. Now let's see my thoughts. Before I click in, I remember this game fondly, but I did have some gripes because at this point I was really just itching for, like, when are we going to get Kingdom Hearts 3? And if I remember correctly, there was a cutscene at the end of this game that kind of carries into Kingdom Hearts 3, if I'm not mistaken, but let's read my thoughts. Those little magical creatures that you train, feed snacks, and train with shouldn't be here. Damn. This isn't the Nintendogs Olympics. This is Kingdom Hearts. Non-reliable Donald and the Goof are the only companions I need. Otherwise, love the soundtrack, combat feels smooth, and there's a nice selection of worlds to explore in this one. I feel like that's pretty spot on to how I would feel today if I played this game. I did not like those little creatures at all. I was like, where's Donald and the Goof? And some phenomenal renditions of classic Kingdom Hearts tracks. In particular, Traverse Town. Oh my goodness, it has like this jazzy feel to it in comparison to its original composition on the PS2. If Yoko Shimomura continued composing the soundtrack for this like she did those earlier games, she did a wonderful job, as she always does. So, very good stuff there. Very good stuff there. Yeah, someday I'd like to revisit Dream Drop Distance via the PS4 HD remaster, because some of those handheld games, I kind of was a one and done type of thing. I didn't play them after playing it once. So, all right, let's keep moving right along here. Next, we have a trio of games, all of the Kirby games that made their way to the 3DS. The first of which is Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn. So we'll add this here. And of course, this was a port of the Nintendo Wii game. And what can you say, and I have beaten this, what can you say about Kirby's Epic Yarn? One of the biggest criticisms of the Kirby series more recently has been that the games are far too easy. We'll see if that stays true for Kirby and the Forgotten Land here, coming out on the Nintendo Switch at the end of the month in March. Have it pre-ordered, cannot wait. I never go to the Kirby games for a challenge. All right, if I want a challenging platformer, I'll play something like Celeste, I'll play something like Super Meat Boy, even some of the new Super Mario Brothers games when you play co-op and things can get chaotic. I'll go to those types of games to get that experience. I go to Kirby for the charm of the cute little pink fluff dude that I fell in love with back on the N64 with crystal shards, and I go for the terrific soundtracks. All right, that's why I play Kirby games. Epic Yarn does that in abundance, and I thought it translated to the Nintendo 3DS wonderfully. So Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, if you haven't gotten it yet, even if you already played it on the Wii, it's worth double dipping. I'm going to skip Triple Deluxe for a second because I already have that on my collection, and we're going to go right into Kirby Planet Robobot, so we can add that one. And this is another one where I have that World Edition version. Get a little back of the box action too. Unfortunately, I've not played Planet Robobot. I've heard pretty good things. I'm not sure how people rank this one versus Triple Deluxe. Robobot. But any kind of gimmick or mechanic where you can get Kirby into a crazy mech suit, sign me up. I mean, it just looks so nice. Let's just read some of the back of the box here. The robots have invaded, and only Kirby can stop them. Power up with Robobot armor, devastating Robobot abilities, inhale enemies to gain their abilities. Well, that's a first for the series. Use over 25 new and classic abilities. How can you not love Kirby? How can you not love Kirby? So we'll flag that as unplayed. Stealth add. And I think I actually just said Kirby plant Robobot instead of planet, but what are you going to do? All right. Plant would have been better anyways. We'll make that fix later. Let's revisit my thoughts on Kirby Triple Deluxe. Now, as far as I remember, I played this in college, I think probably my junior year. Absolutely adored this game. It might even be my favorite Kirby game ever. Like, I just remember smiling ear to ear when I was playing this game. As you can see, I went back and collected all of the Sunstones. Like, when the credits rolled, I did not have enough Triple Deluxe. Like, I wanted to go back and collect everything. So good. And I don't even really remember. I think it was like a Hypernova ability or something like that. Looking at the back of the box here. I can't remember what the different mechanics were. Yeah. Inhale massive enemies and obstacles with the new Hypernova ability. So, really loved this one as far as I remember, but let's check out my little summary here. I'm absolutely loving this game so far. Just as charming as any Kirby game I've ever played. Graphically, it looks great. I've even played with the 3D on quite a bit. The Kirby tunes are better than ever, and I love the new Hypernova power-up. Definitely plan to go for 100% with this one and collect all of the Sunstones. Yes, and the interesting thing that I didn't talk about at the top of this particular video is that I've never been one to play with the 3D on often. There are 3 games in particular, I was going to say 2, but I'll say 3 with Triple Deluxe, that I played with 3D on most of the time. More often than not, I had that little 3D slider up. That was Kirby Triple Deluxe, Kingdom Hearts 3D, and Super Mario Land. I thought all 3 of those games, particularly Kingdom Hearts and Mario 3D Land, used the 3D to its advantage, and I thought it enhanced the experience that much more than the brilliant game that was underneath it already. So, outside of that, and especially more recently, trying to use the 3D, it just kind of gave me a headache. You know, once you hit like 23, 24, it just goes downhill, people, you know? I'm sure people can out there relate. You can relate. My eyes have just gone to crap, all right? So, anyways. All of that being said, we've got our Kirby games here. Now we add a game that, a pair of games that are not currently in my 3DS collection. The first of which, Luigi's Mansion. What a terrific launch game for the GameCube. I've yet to revisit it here on the 3DS, but I am very much looking forward to doing that someday, because it was a game that was such a bizarre risk for Nintendo at the time, especially to launch a Nintendo system without its flagship character in Mario and have another Mario 3D platformer or 2D platformer to release with the system. Because previously, with especially the Super Nintendo and the N64, you had Mario World and you had Mario 64. And I think that's just a testament to the GameCube and how it was such an interesting era for Nintendo, where they did take so many risks with their characters. Star Fox Adventures, Luigi's Mansion, Kirby Air Ride, some really bizarre games, and even Mario Sunshine with that mechanic was just so different. And I applaud Nintendo for that era, because the GameCube was just a special time to be a fan of Nintendo. The next game I also have not played, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. So yeah, get in the comments, tell me, is it like this October, do I just need to pencils down, put all the Resident Evil games aside, and catch up on Luigi's Mansion's games? I've played this. We don't have to flag that as unplayed. Stealth add. And then Luigi's Mansion. Dark Moon. Yeah, so outside of listening to podcasts back then, I don't really remember a lot of what people said about Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, other than it was very positive. Positive enough to warrant a third game in the series on the Nintendo Switch, which I know has also been received really well. So I'd love to just power through the Luigi's Mansion games here the next Halloween. Next up, you can't have a Nintendo system, handheld or otherwise, without a Mario Kart game. Mario Kart 7, while I didn't play it as much as some other folks did, it's... what can you say about Mario Kart, right? I think this one in particular, best played online with friends. I remember many people watching this video might have been a part of that group with Pete Dorr, Nostalgic Dan, Holly, Dog in My Lens, Cliva, Quick Freeze 4, and a number of other folks I think would hop on a call and play Mario Kart 7 for hours at a time. I was in college back then, and I didn't have the free time necessarily to jump in and make some of those play sessions. Big regret, but regardless, Mario Kart 7 is pretty special, even if I don't go back to it nowadays, because I don't think it's really worth going back to many of the earlier Mario Karts when you have something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch, the definitive Mario Kart game. So we'll stealth add that. Next up, we have another sealed game, one I'm glad I added to my collection before the prices get too out of hand. And this is a series that I'm pretty unfamiliar with. I've only played maybe 3 games in the series. That's pretty extensive. And that is Metroid Samus Returns. And I love this glossy cover here. Really, really nice little touch. And of course, this is, as far as I know, a remake of Metroid 2, Samus Returns, which I played on the Game Boy, which is pretty rough. So I'm looking forward to eventually playing this one, because the only Metroid games I've played are 2 on the Game Boy, Fusion via the 3DS Ambassador games, and Metroid Other M, which obviously is not a game that the fans like to consider part of the main canon, if you will. So Metroid Samus Returns is definitely up there to play before I end up playing Metroid Dread on the Switch. So we'll get around to playing that someday. Let's just make sure we add that here. I'll get into the rhythm of this at some point. But it might take some time, because when you do collection update videos, you're just showcasing games, talking through them, so on and so forth, that you kind of forget that you have to update this Backloggery thing. So flag that as unplayed, stealth add that. Next up here, I'm going to go back to my page, because I don't know if I already had this one or not. And I did not have it added. So this is another game that I'm ashamed to say I have yet to play. It was another one that I feel like was a time and place type of thing to play multiplayer with people. And I'm already, here we go, talk about getting ahead of myself. Kid Icarus Uprising. Now this has the little box. It has that little, I think it's like a little device to help prop it up, if you will. And another one with a little emblem on it, because I had a friend from Canada that actually gifted this to me way back when. So Kid Icarus Uprising, I think, is one that I heard gave some people problems with the controls. I think that's why you got that little support stand. There's a little thing on the side of the box there that kind of talks about it. Kid Icarus Uprising is one that I definitely need to get around to playing, but I've yet to do so. So more to come on that at a future date, I suppose. But let me know in the comments, how is Kid Icarus Uprising, and is it something that holds up today if you've played it more recently? Flag that as unplayed. Stealth add. Now we get into a series of games that have certainly been added to the game collection, so we'll be revisiting those thoughts here shortly. and it is a collection of Pokemon games. Okay, so the first up, kind of a duo here. I'm not going to add this one because it's my wife's copy, and I feel like it's a little redundant to add both, but that is Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Pokemon Omega Ruby. Of course, the remakes of the third generation of Pokemon in Ruby and Sapphire, which I would consider probably my second favorite Pokemon generation, because I was really late to the party with Gold and Silver, and I didn't even get Gold and Silver. I got Pokemon Crystal version. So I just didn't have the nostalgia for the second gen like others did. I, of course, have the nostalgia for Blue and Red and Yellow, but I remember distinctly getting Sapphire version with a lime green Game Boy Advance SP for Christmas one year, and that was just a special time. And that region, the starting Pokemon, the battle theme, and all of the region's music was just, it's very nostalgic for me nowadays. And so when we got an announcement that we were getting remakes of those games for the 3DS, yes, in the too much water, who cares? All right. Loved Alpha Sapphire, and we'll see what I have to say about it here. Started a new file alongside the wifey. Yeah, so she was playing Omega Ruby. Played for about 31 hours, caught 85, had 7 out of the 8 badges, but I'd already beaten it previously. I just started a new file. Team Charizard, Dratini, Alakazam, Venusaur, Pidgeot, Feraligatr. Also, probably my favorite Pokemon game. Also, so addicted to Wonder Trading. Yes, I'm surprised I didn't have a more significant write-up here. What a heck of a final crew of Pokemon, though, to take to the Elite Four. And I said also probably my favorite Pokemon game. Debatable. I'd have to really sit down and contemplate that, because those are strong words. And Wonder Trading, if you're not familiar, is when you basically send a Pokemon into the system online, and then someone across the world they match you up with, and you trade Pokemon. So you could throw out a Caterpie, and you might get a Mewtwo back. You just never know. And Wonder Trading is it's an addicting thing. It certainly is. So Pokemon Sun, I don't have my copy up here. It's somewhere on the house. I was not a fan of Pokemon Sun and Moon at all at the time, and I'm surprised I even gave it 3 stars. Let's see what I had to say, though. Just beat Nanu, really struggling to find the motivation to push through this game, but I still played it for nearly 30 hours. Let's see what I had to say. Oh my word. All right, I wrote a book for this one. Incineroar, Alakazam, Arcanine, Pangoro, Toucanon, Gyarados. Honestly, I'm not too fond of the new trial challenge setup as opposed to traditional gyms. Maybe it's the nostalgia and fanboy in me talking, but it's kind of lame in my opinion. Also, the whole call an ally mechanic when encouraging wild Pokemon is infuriating. I don't even remember what that is. Get that out of here. And why the heck am I collecting these weirdo green Zygarde things anyways? Oh well, graphics looks great, and I like the new Pokemon. Fair enough. Pokemon Sun was actually, the reason why it's not up here is because I took my copy downstairs in an effort to revisit it to see if my thoughts had changed. So we'll see once I put a couple of hours into it if my thoughts do change. I never finished it. I put it down, and I kind of just said sayonara to this one. I was not a fan of the changes they made to this one. So maybe someday I'll pick it back up again. Next up, Pokemon X and Y. The hype for these releases was so crazy at the time. I remember being in college, and anytime we got anything resembling a trailer, Nintendo Direct, any kind of showcase that showed this game, I was so excited about, because if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time where You had experience share across your whole party. So you really streamlined the experience of grinding, but then also you had like those little rollerblades so you can far more quickly navigate the map and everything like that. Absolute game changer for Pokemon X, that's for sure. Definitely beat it. As far as I remember, stood out as one of my probably top 3 Pokemon games, but let's see what I had to say. By far, the best game in the series to date. Wow. Let me take a sip of coffee after making a statement like that. Wow. That's good coffee. X and Y honestly improves upon its previous games in every sense of the word. Be it in battles, with actual 3D animations of the Pokemon battling, a fully 3D world, the increased pacing with XP share, or even the simpler refinements such as quicker saving, improved graphics, and even memorable music. Loving this game. I don't think I can say anything else. Perfectly summed it up. The one thing I did forget about is quicker saving. Everyone remembers saving in the earlier Pokemon games. My goodness, you could click save, go make yourself a sandwich and come back, and he would still be saving. Almost instantaneous with Pokemon X as far as I remember. So, good stuff there. Good stuff there. All right. Now we are at a point where we have to add some new games. So let's go back. Get back to the 3DS and add this one. A port of, I don't want to say a favorite, but certainly one I remember fondly on the N64. Rayman 3D. I believe this is a port or remaster of sorts of Rayman 2 and The Great Escape. I don't know how many times they've ported this game to other consoles, but I don't even care. To have it portably on the 3DS is so nice. I've yet to play it. I believe this was a launch game or a near launch title, and I never got around to picking it up. So everyone should know at this point, I'm a big fan of my 3D platformers. So to have one like this on the go is really special. And if I had to guess, I believe, or I would think, that the 3D in that game would be pretty good. I'm sure it would shine. But let me know in the comments below. Not only do you like these games, but what are your thoughts on some of them? And do your opinions differ from mine? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below after this video. I also want to hear, games you're not seeing in my collection that you think should be in my collection. I'd love to also get recommendations, just like hopefully some of you are getting recommendations when watching this video. All right? Still have to add that. Next up, we have a remake of an N64 title, and that is none other than Star Fox 64 3D. Get up nice and close. When I think about some of these N64 remakes that made their way to the Nintendo 3DS, it reminds me a lot of the Super Nintendo games that got ported to the Game Boy Advance. And I thought those games played so well and translated brilliantly to the Game Boy Advance. You look at stuff like A Link to the Past. You look at stuff like Super Mario World. I thought playing those games portably on that little screen just worked so well. And I think very similarly, N64 games and the remakes that we got for the 3DS also translated so wonderfully to that handheld, and I wish we would have gotten more. So many people were begging and pleading for an F-Zero game for the 3DS. What would it have looked like if they just remade the N64 F-Zero game? Which, was there? I don't even know if there was an F-Zero game on the N64. Regardless, probably terrible example, but I feel like more of the N64 library could have been remade for the 3DS. Rayman 3D is another example. I think games like Donkey Kong 64 would have been an interesting one. I'm looking at my 3DS, or my N64 collection over there right now. We got Diddy Kong Racing on the DS, but that also, I think, would have translated really well to the 3DS. Pokemon Snap. I know we recently got new Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo Switch, but I feel like if you would have remade that original one for the 3DS with the gyroscope, moving your 3DS around, catching Pokemon. That would have been so cool. That would have been so cool. Yoshi's Story is another favorite of mine on the N64. I don't know. I just think that I'm glad that we got stuff like Star Fox, like Ocarina, like Rayman 3D, but I think there's more to be desired there. I think they really missed out on an opportunity to bring more of those N64 games to the 3DS, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get this game added here. N64, Star Fox 64, 3D. A lot of numbers and letters there, but what are you going to do? And I have beaten this game. I just never added it to the Backloggery. So, we'll stealth add that. A favorite of mine growing up. Never owned the N64 cartridge, but remember going over to my buddy Brad's house. Brad and Joe, they were twins, but remember going over to their house and playing it. Excellent game. Excellent game. Next up, a game I don't think is on there for whatever reason. I must have taken it off of my list because of the when I'd gone through a pretty significant purge of my game collection. Terrific game, mentioned earlier. Super Mario 3D Land. I very much prefer the fully 3D Mario games like your 64s, like your Sunshines, like your Galaxies. I don't think I'm as on board with the 3D Land, 3D World style of 3D Mario platformer these days as other people are. But there's no denying that Mario 3D Land is not terrific. Soundtrack, the level design was really clever, even if I felt like I beelined the game and by the end I had well over like 100 lives. A lot of great jazzy tunes, just a great soundtrack, really fun game, and like I mentioned earlier, one of the games that I always had the 3D cranked up on it because it just added a sense of depth to those levels, and I felt like there were even collectibles where it was almost a requirement to have the 3D on to understand where some of those collectibles were. So, also a game I never went back and 100%ed, one that would probably be pretty fun to go back and 100% someday. So, Super Mario 3D Land, such a great game, and that's one I've beaten. And a reminder to eventually pick up 3D World and Bowser's Fury, because I've yet to buy that game, and I've played very little of it back on the Wii at a friend's house. So, what a terrific game that is. The next one I'm not going to add because it's already there is Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call. What an incredible idea for a rhythm game. My gosh. I mean, I remember when the first Theatrhythm came out, and that alone, without Curtain Call and all the extra and added songs that came with it, phenomenal. And to be able to play it portably was such a delight. And when Curtain Call came out, I had to buy that, played the absolute heck out of it. There's no way that playtime is an accurate stat. And I think another thing, like I was talking about with, I wish they would have had more N64 remakes for 3DS. I wish they would have taken this and just milked it till it was dry in a way that Activision did with the Guitar Hero series. I mean, you could have done this back on the 3DS for Kingdom Hearts. I know we eventually got Memory of Melody for Switch and other consoles. I know we also got a Dragon Quest Theatrhythm type game, but that was exclusive to Japan that I think I probably should import someday. I feel like there's just so many other series. You could have done it for Legend of Zelda. How cool would that have been? Theatrhythm, The Legend of Zelda. Theatrhythm, Mario. I mean, they really could have done so many more games with a Theatrhythm style, but maybe they'll bring it back someday. Maybe Square Enix will partner with Nintendo and bring Theatrhythm, The Legend of Zelda to the Switch. That would be so cool. That would be so cool. Let's see what I had to say. Chaos defeated. Total Rhythmia, working on base rank songs, party in the comments. So I might not even have any thoughts on this one. Zidane from Final Fantasy IX, my boy. Lightning, Cloud, and Terra. Solid party. And solid game. Gosh, I need to pick that one up. That'd be a great game to just pick up and play for short bursts, you know? Stressful day at work. Need to relax with some Final Fantasy music before bed. Good stuff. Brilliant, brilliant game. Next up, talk about N64 remakes. We have The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, 3D. The reason that so many people wanted to buy the 3DS4 to begin with when this game was originally talked about and announced. And I have to have it around here somewhere. Yes, I do. This was not one that I ended up getting rid of. How could you ever? That would just be criminal. I finally completed this incredible game for the first time, 20 hours and 30 minutes. And before I even get into what I said here, I remember picking this game up and playing my freshman year of college. And similar to how like certain music for me, like the Foo Fighters came out with a record called Wasting Light in 2011, the year I went to college. That record is so synonymous with my first year of college in the same way that Ocarina of Time 3D is synonymous with my first semester of college, because I remember sitting down in my dorm room alone at my desk playing this game, and it was just such a unforgettable experience for me. So let's get into this. Wow, okay, so I have a book here. Playing this game beginning to end as a freshman in college was a special experience, and one I doubt I'll ever forget. My roommate often left on Fridays and didn't return until late Sunday. Sitting at my desk and playing this game, sometimes with YouTube pickup videos in the background, or even better, climbing into my bunk on a Friday night, listening to a chill podcast, continuing my journey in Ocarina. Unforgettable experience. My Uncle Rick would be proud. So kind of exactly what I was getting at. You know, I wasn't someone who went out on Friday nights with my buddies. I was a studious student to my detriment. I didn't go out, and it's kind of a regret of mine of not having a little bit more fun in college. But regardless, I remember Friday nights getting my homework done, getting some food, and just sitting down and getting further and further into Ocarina of Time, which I never beat on the N64. So that's where my Uncle Rick comes into play. I remember going over to my Uncle Rick and Aunt Chris's house and going up in the loft, and he would be playing either Ocarina of Time or GoldenEye on the N64. And so much of my experience with those two games were vicariously played through him and watching him play. And I remember he got to a point in the game where he had no idea where to go. And back then, it wasn't just Google, you know, where do you go next in Ocarina, and you pull up a long play on YouTube. You had to get out game facts and print all those pages out and everything like that. And I just remember trying my best to help my Uncle Rick find his way through Ocarina, never seeing the credits roll, never beating Ganon. And I feel like when I went to college and I sat down with my 3DS and Ocarina of Time, not only was I beating it for myself, but I was beating it for my Uncle Rick back in the day when we didn't know where to go next. So, terrific game, stands the test of time, no pun intended, and one that I definitely would like to revisit again someday, because I've only played through to completion once. So, with that said, and still staying on the Legend of Zelda side of things, we have another N64 remake here that I'll add momentarily, and that is Majora's Mask. This is one I've never beaten. I remember watching a buddy of mine growing up, Scott, play. Kind of freaked me out as a kid. The masks and the sound effects when you tore them off and were wearing them, kind of creepy, you know, as an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid. So I never played it. And what also kind of drove me away from the game was the time mechanic. So as far as I know, you have to beat the game in a certain amount of time. That kind of stuff always freaks me out in video games. So I've yet to play Majora's Mask. I know it's kind of a cult classic at this point, and one that I eventually need to play. So maybe someday. Maybe someday. But before I add Majora's Mask, I want to quickly talk about The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. my understanding, the sequel to A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, and a game that I absolutely adored, especially as someone who didn't grow up playing those top-down Legend of Zelda games. I remember my sister one Christmas, her and I got Oracle of Ages and Seasons on the Game Boy Color. I just didn't get the game. It just didn't click with me. I didn't understand it. I didn't get where to go next. And it was years later that I ended up playing A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo. So when Link Between Worlds came out, I thought, this is my time, right? This is my time to really understand the top-down Legend of Zelda love that the series was known for, and how it found its humble beginnings on the NES. So let's see what I had to say about this one. Need I say more? Need I say more? 2013 Game of the Year runner-up. Runner-up. That's interesting. You have to wonder, back in 2013, what would have topped my list and not A Link Between Worlds? Maybe I'll have to revisit one of my older YouTube videos to find out. But I actually don't have this game physically. I remember, for those that might be familiar with the Cartridge Club, P1 and P2, two brothers that started a amazing community of like-minded gamers. They have a monthly podcast where it's basically like a book club for games. I remember P1, Sean, he got the Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds Special Edition console. He wanted a physical copy of the game, and so he reached out to me on Twitter and said, "Yo, Rusty, thought of you. Do you want my digital copy, free of charge?" And I said, yeah, for sure, thank you. Oh my gosh, because back then, I'm in college. I didn't have a ton of, expendable income at the time. So to get that game for free and to play it around Christmas time was such a treat. Such a treat. If you're listening or you're watching P1, thank you. I'll never forget that. All right. The next two games are both games I have to add, so it's a perfect time to add Majora's Mask. I'd love to hear, too, for those that are big Legend of Zelda fans, where do you rank Ocarina versus Majora? Because I know there are fans out there that prefer Majora over Ocarina. Curious if anyone watching feels similarly, all right? Hit me up in the comments. We'll flag that as unplayed, still sealed. Stealth, add that. We have two more games here, and then we'll call it an episode here for the rebooting the backlog and updating my 3DS collection. This one I actually just recently purchased. Absurd how cheap this game is, and I just don't think this series ever took off here in the West like it has in Japan. But given how cheap it is, I figured I'd just give it a try. And that is Yokai Watch. It feels like it was really catered towards children. I watched a couple reviews before purchasing it, and one of the criticisms, or at least bullet points in reviews, was that it's very simple. This game will give you very little challenge. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Having these little yokai, training them up, battling them. If it's relatively simple and it has a charming art style and graphics, decent enough soundtrack, this sounds like a perfect game to pop in and play on the weekend while I'm watching an anime or just downstairs watching some movies with the wife. So I'm looking forward to giving this one a try. So Yokai Watch. Let me know what you think. I'm pretty sure that Yokai Watch 2 or Yokai Watch 3 has skyrocketed in price and is like over $150, $200 or something insane. But yeah, I'm looking forward to giving that one a try. And then last but certainly not least, another game I've yet to play. We're running into a theme here towards the end, but that is Yoshi's New Island. I believe this is meant to be a spiritual successor to Yoshi's Island. Of course, the Super Nintendo classic. But I have not played that, and I've actually never played Yoshi's Island. So maybe I play this one that's held in lesser regard first, so that way I can only go up when I play Yoshi's Island. But we'll see. Let's first add Yokai Watch. I'm not sure if I'm meant to capitalize this. I'll have to, again, check after the recording. Yokai Watch. Unplayed. That one's still sealed as well. Let me know if you've played that one for sure. And then Yoshi's New Island on the 3DS as well. And then some of you caught it. Little sticker on the bottom corner. Another worldwide edition. Not something I'm, too upset about. So let's stealth edit that. Let's go back to my 3DS collection and let's see if I missed any games. Animal Crossing New Leaf, Crossword Plus, Dragon Quest VII, Fragments of the Forgotten Past, Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King, Ever Oasis, Hometown Story, Kid Icarus Uprising, Kingdom Hearts 3D, Kirby. Let's edit this now. It's going to frustrate the heck out of me. Planet? No, Rusty. Planet. See, part of the benefit of me adding these games live is I learn how to spell. Everyone wins. Kirby, Planet, Robobot. Back to the 3DS games. Triple Deluxe, Kirby's Epic Yarn, Link Between Worlds, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time 3D, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Mario Kart 7, Metroid, Samus Return, maybe the game out of all of these games on my 3DS collection that I haven't played that I'm most looking forward to playing. Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, Pokemon Sun, Pokemon X, Rayman 3D, Star Fox 64 3D, Super Mario 3D Land, Theatrhythm, Final Fantasy Curtain Call, Yokai Watch, and Yoshi's New Island. There you have it, friends. That is my Nintendo 3DS collection. Let's go back to see the total games. We are at 27. Not too extensive. And 27 total, I probably added about 18 to 20 games today. And that's probably going to be the max that I add for this series of videos. Because as you can see, this video is probably already going on to an hour. These are meant to be long. As I was saying, they're almost like little mini podcast episodes where I take you through my game collection. Today we did the Nintendo 3DS. Hopefully you found it to be entertaining, relaxing, chill. You had you're playing a video game, you have your coffee, you're just straight chilling while you listen to me walk through and update my game collection manually using Backloggery. All right? So a couple asks. One, let me know if there are any games notably absent from my 3DS collection that you think I might like, or maybe they're, dare I say, hidden gems that you consider favorites of yours that you think I should keep an eye out for. I'm all ears. I really want to round out the 3DS collection before prices get too out of hand. There's really only two other games on my radar at this point that I kind of want to add, and that's Fire Emblem Awakening and Bravely Default. Those are the two games that are really top of mind for me. Outside of that, I feel pretty comfortable and pretty satisfied with the state of my 3DS collection. And it goes without saying that I also have a number of games downloaded via the eShop on my collection. I'm not going to go through those, but if you have any questions of the games that I do have, shoot me a note in the comment section, and I'll be sure to get back to you with some of my favorite eShop games. And with all that being said, I think the only final thing to say is thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you're enjoying this series, and maybe you'll stick around for future videos in this gaming update collection series of videos, rebooting the backlog, however you want to see it. And maybe I should also tease what the next system I'm going to update is. And I thought, let's pivot away from the handhelds, let's pivot away from Nintendo, and let's revisit an earlier console in the PlayStation 1. I will definitely be breaking that up probably into 3 videos. I'll probably record it all in one day, but I'll split those videos out because they're going to be... my PS1 library is pretty extensive. Not insane, not too crazy, certainly well under 100 games, but it'll take a while for me to get through all of that. All that Disney jank, All right. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. Pop in the comment section. Let me know some of your favorite 3DS games. And I'll see you in the next video talking about my PlayStation 1 collection.